your novel starts out strong and you love it. And then at some point, it starts to lose steam. We're going to talk about that today on the podcast. So stay tuned.
Welcome to the Christian Indie Writers Podcast, where we inform, encourage, and support Christian indie authors on their journey to publication. I'm Jamie Hirschberger. I write short fiction under the pen name J.R. Nichols.
And I'm Jennifer Carl Tong, and I write historical Christian romance.
We are down one host today. We hope that Tina will be back with us next week, and we appreciate everybody who's sticking around in spite of our long hiatus. If it's not one thing, it's another, I feel like, right, Jen? And
Right. It's only been 2 weeks, though.
Oh, right? Has it? I don't know why I feel like it's been 3.
Because we were worried about this week, I think. Is that like,
yeah.
Because I am like dragging. And Tina couldn't be here. And I think there was like, is this going to happen? But here we are. Yay.
Yay. And we're so very grateful, too, for the people who are able to tune in and watch us live. I've seen already Christy, which means that her homeschooled daughter is also watching. Good morning to you all. Hello, Piper.
There it is. Sorry. They're moving on me. There's Christy.
And there's SL Perrin. Hello. So glad that you guys didn't miss us today. Glad that we didn't miss you today. We're so happy to be back. Oh, there's Jason. Oh, that's awesome.
I got to see Jason last week.
Yeah.
He was at family camp, and we got to spend some time together, ate breakfast together a bunch of times, and no writing.
Live and in person. No writing? Bummer.
He might have. I for sure did not.
That's a curious question. Teresa, I know, works at this time of day typically, so she's not usually able to join us. But I do wonder if they've been using the writing room. We were talking in our last writing salon about ramping up the writing room for sort of an office hour situation. Back when I did not have my day job, we would meet every day to write, and they were talking about restarting that tradition or method toward getting some advancement on the writing. So I wonder how that's going. So if you know, pipe in. And if you're not, we got a couple of days in this week. All right. And if you're not a Patreon at the $5 level, go ahead and join that. And then the next time we get together, you can be a part of those shenanigans too. We do appreciate all of you, whether you are able to catch us live or whether you're listening now on the podcast app of your choice. We are so happy and thankful. If you would please spread the word, like and subscribe, do all the things so we can reach more people with our vision. We would appreciate you. Okay, so moving on. Jen, you gave us a really tantalizing hook there. I feel like, actually, as you were I thought about my did not finish pile, and
you have a lot,
yeah. The fact is, I think that's what tanked the book for me, is that the momentum just kind of fizzled out, and I was not engaged beyond that first little bit there where a lot of effort is put in. And so we're going to talk about that today, right?
Yeah. And, we talked in the past about the murky middle and ways of getting past it and things like that. But I think that like most novels do not lose momentum because of bad writing, I believe. But we feel like we're bad writers if we can't get past those points that lag, or worse yet, that when you're reading them, you've already written it. But then when you're reading it, it lags and you realize, oh, I just didn't do this right. It's usually not bad writing. It's because there are predictable points in your story that it can start to lag. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is those points. So if you feel like your story is kind of like slowing down or losing momentum, these are the points we want you to go check in your book.
Yes. And I think that when you have said oftentimes you are an outliner, whether you know it or not, this is what you mean, because good writing means you sort of like write to a prompt and the writing evokes and the writing. But if it doesn't have the right structure or bones to it, as far as like from a novel perspective, it's going to have problems. And so even if you write something beautiful as a discovery writer, you're probably going to go back and shore up these areas in particular to ensure that the reader's experience fulfills the bargain that you made with them when they picked up your novel.
Right. And if you are a discovery writer and you're like, no, I never have to go back. Well, then you probably are naturally, as you're writing, doing this process anyway. And
Yes.
if you are that person and you hit a book where it's a struggle, this it's just for some reason this book is not naturally flowing for you. These are the things to look at. These are the places.
Okay, so the first area that we see trouble brewing is what we're calling the post-hook slowdown. What happens in a post-hook slowdown?
Well, the beginning of the book should be exciting. If it's not, we have episodes about that as well. But the beginning of your book should be what draws your reader in, because if it's not, like, why would they continue, right? Chapter 1
Mhm.
grabs the attention. But then chapter 2, like after chapter 1, then you have the setup, right? You have to start giving information and you have to introduce characters and their
Yeah.
lives. And if it gets too setup heavy, then that's where the
Mhm.
problem can start to begin. So if you have too much world building, too much backstory, too much like again, character introductions, then it can make it feel like it's just too heavy there right after chapter 1 or after the hook. So,
I'm looking at the outline and I saw setup heavy, and for some reason my brain turned it into soupy. I'm like, "Oh, your intro
well,
gets too soupy."
it
Yes,
kind of
like you have
is
like
like
way too many ingredients being thrown in there.
yes, that's very good actually. We should keep that. Yeah.
Oh gosh. Okay. And so that's going to kind of slow everything down, right? It's
Right.
going to and if we're talking about momentum, by momentum we mean you've started like going down a hill and your legs just keep going naturally because you're going downhill, and that's called momentum. That kind of keeps you going. And from a reader's perspective, the reader's clipping along, the words are going into their eyeballs and turning into either a movie or an audible story, however they're processing. And
Mhm.
this is going to be what stops that momentum. It's like
Yes.
running into like a big muddy puddle as you're going down the hill. So you stop your momentum, or hitting a rock or something like that.
Right. And I love the analogy, because I do think that you will need, you have the momentum up, but then you also will have, I mean, sorry, the momentum down, but you will also have to have those moments of up. And that is when you
Yes.
give the backstory and where you
Yes.
introduce characters. But think about this. So for those of you that love to run as much as I do, which is not at all, that if you get to a hill, if it's a
Mhm.
ginormous hill and I have to run up, I'm not gonna wanna do it.
No.
The exercise is over. But if it's like
Mhm.
a little hill and I get a little bit and I know that I'm gonna have more downtime after that, then
Mhm.
it flows better, right? So you think about that with your writing, that like you wanna make sure that you're not giving so much information, so much setup that people are losing the joy of wanting to run down the hill, I guess.
And yes, and if you think about if you give them the right amount of stuff coming down, it's going to make the coming up just easy because of the
Yes.
carryover momentum. And then they won't have to put in so much work to climb that next hill because you're doing it right. And this is what we're
Yeah.
trying to help you do, is to do that part right.
Right. Right. So let's talk about some ways, right? So
Yeah.
one
Hmm.
of the things I like to do is introduce information through like conflict.
Yeah. Conflict is good.
Yeah, especially in a romance, right?
Hmm.
So, if for those of you who have read my second book, the main character Esther has been like proposed to, like she was close to being married like twice already, like and so then things like fell apart, and so you introduce I introduce this information as she's lamenting the most recent breakup of a relationship that she's had and how bad like that went down and how what a dog the guy was basically. Um as opposed to just sitting there at tea with her friend about, yes, remember when I broke up with, no, like I hate him. Like,
Hmm.
this is the word that she's bawling. And so it helps because you're still giving the momentum of the story, but you're giving, I'm giving you bits and pieces. I'm not giving you everything about her, so
Yes, and the conflict is also demonstrated in, say, The Wizard of Oz. So Dorothy gets
Mm,
blown away to the land of Oz, and of course, the answer is go see the wizard. Well, it could just be like, leave your house, go see the wizard, and that's not really a lot of momentum there. But that
right.
conflict with the witch comes in to now kind of give us like something else to help us get up the hill of the long journey to Oz, right?
Yes.
Because otherwise, it would have felt way more boring to just be like, okay, now we're going to walk for however many miles.
Right.
Right.
Which that's a great analogy because it brings up like our next point is that if you keep your protagonist pursuing something, if you keep them actively having a goal of some sort, then you do that immediately. Then even when you're giving some backstory, even when you're doing the setup, the goal is still there and they're still actively doing it. So that helps a lot with the feel of the momentum.
In our live chat, Piper is with you, Jen. No running, no
Mhm.
fun. Gotcha. And
Agreed.
then let's celebrate Catherine Swanson, able to make it today to the live. Hello. We
Yay.
were too.
Yep. Yep. We made it to the live too. Yay.
So good to see you. Happy that you could join us. Hope that you find something really actionable to take away with you today.
Mhm.
So I guess what we're trying to say as far as like keeping that momentum going even uphill is what is going to take the reader into the next chapter. The hook at the
Yes.
beginning of the book was what's going to keep the reader reading beyond the first paragraph. And
Mhm.
now we're trying to get that reader through the first chapter and into
Right.
the next one.
Yeah, so I met with Jason not too long ago, um, via Zoom, where we talked a little bit about like his writing and the stalls that he was having. And I suggested instead of outlining the entire thing, outline a little bit right to that
Mm,
part. And then when you get to the end, like now you see what you've done with that part. Now what happens next? And just kind of like do the what happens next. And that's very similar to what you're saying here, Jamie, is that like when you're writing a chapter, think about, well, what's going to happen in the next chapter? And if you write to that, even
mm.
if you're a discovery writer, that will help you because the whole point is we want them to turn the page. We want them to open the book. We talk about that in other episodes too. And then once we got them inside the book, what makes them keep turning the page?
Very good. Well, we talked about the post-hook slowdown. I think that was a really good summation of where we're at, Jen. Now,
Mhm.
place number 2, where your novel loses momentum, is what we're going to call the first act wandering zone. What in the world is that?
So when you're reading a book or writing a book and you have a character that you're trying to introduce a problem, because you got to have the conflict, otherwise
Hmm.
it's not interesting for anybody to read.
Yeah.
um but your protagonist still kind of like flits around and doesn't really confront the problem yet. I think a lot of that time that happens because we're still trying to introduce too much information. We feel like our readers need all the information. Trust me, you could probably take about 30% of the information out and your reader will be fine. Let them infer things. We don't need
Yes.
to know, like, I do like to know hair color and eye color, and I do use that in my writing for both of my main characters. But we don't really need to know what most of the other side characters look like exactly. Some
Hmm.
of them maybe, but not unless later you're going to introduce them as a main character of another book. We don't need all this stuff. What we need is your main character to confront the problem or be part of the problem. We need that to start happening. Um,
Yes, like
so
I'm reminded of like, okay, this has never happened in any book, but this is kind of like an example of the type of thing that I see. So the main character, first chapter over, next chapter, phone call about the problem. Oh, okay. Main character goes and takes a shower, makes a sandwich, knock on the door. Person talking to the main character about the problem.
yes,
Oh, okay. Main character goes to bed to think about it tomorrow. Like those kinds of things. And what's
yes.
really interesting to me is I have seen this faux pas in the same book as the second faux pas, which you would think that the same kind of writer wouldn't do these same types of mistakes, because the first one almost feels like too much is going on. And the second one feels like not enough information is given. And that is the scenes feel disconnected. So it's kind
Mm,
of like not enough information to understand why the reader is putting in this other scene, which is so funny that the same writer can make both of these same mistakes, because it's almost like they're giving too much information in the one way and not enough information in the other way, to where the scenes are feeling disconnected.
Right. And ultimately, it's because the protagonist has not fully committed to the problem,
You're right. You're
right?
right. They all source from the same issue.
Yes, exactly.
And then,
Um,
yeah, ultimately, the readers don't know where the story's going because of it.
right. Right. Be focused. Again, I know I'm a plotter, so I know a lot of my advice comes from that area. But again, like if you're not a plotter, but you're having the struggle, go back and do these things. But if readers don't know where the story is heading, then they're not going to keep reading. And that's the whole point, is to keep them reading. So don't put too much extra stuff in there. Like don't make it confusing for them.
I just wanted to mention Piper says, unless the side character's appearance factors into the story or world. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that the side character's appearance is the problem. I'm saying that the main character doing nothing about it is the problem. So, like, they get the phone call from the side character, or the side character comes to visit, and then the main character just continues their life as if they did not get this new information, and they don't grab the situation and start immediately trying to like solve the problem. So
I
that's
think
the
what Piper's
distinction.
referring to is what I was saying early before
Oh,
you were talking about that if you spend too much time giving all the details as opposed
oh,
to getting
gotcha.
into the
Mhm,
action of the problem.
mhm.
And you can still give the side characters like appearances, you know. I in the side character of my second book, Katie, is it important that she has freckles and like that? And it is to me, because I feel like that there's an innocence about her
Mhm.
that you don't see at the beginning of the story. And that when Esther stops and really looks at her, she realizes that she's just a young girl like her, you know. So yes, I think that there are reasons to share it, but not to get lost in it. Okay.
Well, go ahead.
I was gonna say, let's move on some solutions.
Yes, that's exactly what I was gonna say. So how do we fix it, right? And I think that first of all, have the character react and actually engage with the problem if a side
Yes.
character comes up and puts it in their face, right?
Make the problem clear. That's the other thing
Yes,
too.
that's
Like,
probably the issue. Like, the side
yeah.
character or the main character doesn't know what to do because the problem is not clear.
So with romance, it's a lot easier, I know, because the goal is love. Like, I
Right.
know that, but like they also have other problems and other goals and things that they're fighting against. And so like whether it's like I'm never marrying again or I can't trust anyone ever again. Like you need to make that clear from the beginning that the goal is to, because it doesn't mean they're going to reach the goal. That's the other thing I think we need to be clear, is that they have something there that they feel is important, but their journey is whether or not that goal is going to be attainable or not. So,
Yes, and putting those roadblocks in there is part of the solution as well. Either show that they're getting closer to the goal, or that something is now a roadblock in the way.
agreed.
All right, and
I think
raise
we
the
should,
stakes.
yeah,
Never
exactly.
hurts.
Right. So if you have a character that says, "Well, I'm never getting married again," and then all of a sudden they can't get an inheritance unless they get married, you've just raised the stakes, right?
Yes, by a lot.
By a lot. So,
Okay, so we've talked about now the post-hook slowdown and the first act wandering zone. Now we're getting into the sagging middle,
oh,
commonly known as the murky middle. This is a known area. If you've heard about a place where a novel loses momentum ever in the writing world, it has been the murky middle. And I mean, I don't think we necessarily, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, but still, what is it? How does it happen?
it's when all the initial excitement wears off and sometimes the characters seem to be repeating the same actions. And as a writer, you're just like, oh, like I've done all this fun stuff and I know where I need to get at the very end of the book, but now I have this big part in the middle I don't want to get to. And again, if you plot, you know that 50% way of the way through the book, you have a plot point, or what I call a disaster, something that's going to blow up the world the way that they see it now. And so if that is what you're, again, we talked about earlier in this episode, that if you write what's in the next chapter, what's going to happen in the next chapter, and you're just writing towards that next chapter. What's going to happen in the middle of the book? What big thing is happening, and what do I have to have happen with my characters to get to that point? And honestly, it's only like 1 or 2 chapters that will be murky for you. Like, it's going to be some like character development. It's going to be some things that moving that the characters around and the events, things happening that might feel like they're very much like information heavy or backstory heavy when you get to the middle. But really, those things are important to get to what's about to happen. So if you know what that part is in the middle, or maybe just sit down and do some brainstorming, like what could really destroy the world of my people? Like what could blow up what they think they want? What could, like in romance, it's usually like 2 characters are almost there. They're almost like one of them or both of them realize that they are in love with the other. And then what's going to happen in the middle that's going to keep them apart. Right.
And
So
see,
what?
I never have a problem with that part, but then I can't ever figure out how to get them out of it.
Oh.
Like, I have no problem destroying lives, but other than just like Deus Ex Machina, I can't figure out a solution to their problem that like makes sense, whatever. But
Oh.
anyway, I digress. Also, when there were gatekeepers, we knew that a novel had to be a minimum of
Right.
65,000 words. Fantasy longer, other genres possibly shorter, but you knew you had to get to this particular length of a book. And this is probably when a lot of people realized that their idea wasn't really a novel yet, because the answers, they had not figured out what those, like you said, Jennifer, they should just like naturally progress, like
Mhm.
connecting links in a chain, to get you to that climax part. And so it's possible that the person who came up with the idea hadn't really thought the idea through enough to make it a novel length like story, or enough meat there to really make it a novel.
Mhm.
But as indie authors, we also have the option to make the middle shorter.
Mhm.
You can have a novella if you feel like you can't really get through a murky middle to have however many words you think it's supposed to have, because again, you do have to honor your contract with your readers. So don't give them a novel that's deflated in the middle because you were committed to putting out 65,000 words.
And there are plenty of readers out there that would rather read 45,000 words and move on to the next book than
There
read
you go.
65 to 75,000. I mean,
Mhm.
my first book literally is 45,000 words. It was meant to be just a giveaway, and I put it up and published it, and I've sold lots. I mean, thousands of people have read that book. So, there are lots of people that would like to read shorter books. So if you are struggling a lot with this, yeah, tighten it up, make it a shorter book. That's just your goal. Just make it like it's going to be 45,000 words. And then the plot points that I always talk about, they just come sooner. They still come at percentages. That's why we say percentages and not like even chapters
Word
or
count,
words or
yeah.
word count. Like we do it at
Mhm.
percentages. So,
Very
yeah.
good. So what other solutions besides just making your book shorter do we have for the murky middle?
Well, like make sure that you're introducing new complications. When I say that the middle point that the midpoint disaster, it's not the same disaster that they faced at 25%. It has to be something completely different.
Mhm.
Otherwise, nobody cares. Like I know that I don't know, a few months back I told you guys about a book that I read where whenever there was conflict, like all of a sudden they were going on a picnic. That was the solution for everything. And it drove me crazy because I'm like, is there nothing else to do in the wild, wild west but to go for a picnic? And so you have to make sure that you're varying it because it doesn't feel natural to people if you don't. And so make sure you introduce new complications, new solutions. And then you got to force your protagonists, they have to come up with strategies. And this is where you were saying that you struggled, Jamie, was getting them out of trouble. Like they have to have strategies that are different from the ones before. Like they can't go on a picnic every single time they have a fight. There has to be something else that happens. So give them give them some sort of disaster that they have to work out or survive or something that is different than the first one. I think if you write fantasy or you write anything that has like battles in it, to me, this would be very difficult because it's not my cup of tea. But if you write that, you probably know what I'm saying. Like, you can't have the same kind of victory at this plot point A that you would have at plot point B. They have to be different kinds of victories. So for every genre, it's the same. You have to have a different conflict and you have to have a different solution. And if you're having a murkiness in the middle, right to that conflict. So,
I keep
and
thinking,
make it, not only can it not be the same thing, it's got to be worse. The conflicts have to get more and more and more. You have to increase the costs, you have to increase the risks and the consequences, because you want everyone that's gripping your book to want to turn the page and see what's going to happen to my favorite character next.
I don't know why it's coming to me repeatedly that the informant is dead. So the guy you usually go to for your intel, now he's dead. So now you got to go figure out
Yeah.
some other way to solve your problem. I
That's
don't know why
great.
that example is coming to mind.
No, that's a great one. Yeah, for sure. That's a great one. I said that, like, for romance, the middle point is always something happens to pull them apart. But there is a million ways that you could write that something happens that pulls them apart. It could be that she sees him with another woman, doesn't understand, like, thinks that, like, he's with someone else, or she thinks that he's getting a job that's going to take him across the country, or, I mean, there's just a million things you could do. So,
Piper says that's why they usually have a second body drop in the mysteries.
yes.
Mhm.
See, it's every genre. So I know that I always bring up romance, like, examples, because that's what I know, but it is every genre that does it this way.
That's so funny to think about. And I've even seen kind of like the third wall broken, or however you want to say. I think Poirot does it where it's like, well, there's always another murder, isn't there? One of the characters says it. Yeah. And so I think, Jen, this is where I'm going to need a little bit of help from you, because as we're coming up onto place number 4, it makes me think about kind of the ratios and where we are in relationship to the climax of the book, because we're talking now about the pre-climax plateau. And to me, that sounds a lot like the murky middle. So they're two separate places. Help me understand how it's two different things if the climax is kind of in the middle.
So the climax happens somewhere between 75% and 99% of the book.
Okay.
And so the murky middle is at 50%. So now you have
Okay.
this whole other 25% or more that you have to write. This honestly is where I struggle more,
Okay.
because we have that big major thing in the middle where they're tore apart, and then they have to work to get things back together. What I have realized is, because the problem is then people start circling the climax instead of just getting to it. Because if you just get to it, then all of a sudden your story is over. And
Mm.
now it doesn't feel weird. It feels weird because you haven't had enough story there. So for me, I hesitate because I really just want to get to the climax, right? I know how
Mhm.
things are going to work out, and the fix for me, I guess I should probably not. Yeah, I'm going to move on to fix because I
Yeah,
don't know
go
how else
ahead.
to talk about
Sure.
this. The fix for me is that I have to make sure that as I'm writing the first 75% of the book, 50%, 75% of the book, that I'm introducing enough subplots.
Mm.
Because if I don't have enough subplots, there's not enough little things for me to tie up, loose ends to tie up that are
Mm.
interesting that the people want to know. Like,
Okay.
when like, I'm trying to think of a great example. Um I I'm so tired. I'm sorry, you guys.
That's
So
okay.
in my books, and I keep saying my books, but that's really all that's in my head right now, is I will have side characters that we have to figure out. Like in book 2 again, there's a guy that is a bouncer at the speakeasy, and we kind of like him because he's kind of like like kind of takes care of her, even though he's like a despicable person that kind of works at this place. Um, but then we find out and during that 75% that he has left that place, and now he's gotten a job at the newspaper that she works at, because the guy that she's kind of falling in love with, like, got him a job there, knowing that, like, there was some good in him, and so, like, you have all these little subplots that you need to tie the ends of. And so if you're having trouble, like, not just jumping to the climax, it's possible that when writing the first 75%, you didn't have enough other subplots that you need to fix up. I always have a character arc for each of my main characters, but I also have a spiritual character arc, and that usually involves other people in their lives that help them come to like realization of what God is trying to do in their life. And so that's a whole nother at least chapter on its own that does not have anything to do with the romance part. So yeah, so for me, that a lot of the fix is making sure that you have good subplots that you need, the ends need to be tied together.
And a lot of readers are really reluctant to make major changes in the story at this point for some reason. It's almost like an anti-instinct. It's almost like they feel like playing it safe when they ought to do something that's a little bit more intense. I was thinking of my Wizard of Oz analogy, and you would think Dorothy meets the wizard climax, but no, it comes later when she melts the witch, right? And
Right.
so her meeting the wizard, however, is a very big momentous part of the book. And this is
Right.
right around the part of the story that we're talking about, right?
Right. Exactly. So you think about the middle part, and then there's a big disaster that happens. I would say that for her, yes. So you have the disaster, but then things can't just get better after that
Right.
disaster.
No. Mm-mm.
So things have changed. She has to like start thinking differently about what she's going to do. She has to start worrying about all the people that are around
The
her.
other people that have added complications to
They have
her.
applicant. Yep. And so the a lot of the work of any book at this point is their character arc.
Mm.
So like, yeah, so we can go and we can just put two characters that they're in love and okay, fine, that's all. Or like they, whatever happened in the middle has made them realize something about themselves inside too that needs to be worked out. And then that's what you do in these next few chapters. Like they have to make a difficult choice that could change everything. But that difficult choice ends up not only improving who they are as a person, but ultimately brings them closer to the person that they're headed towards. Um, you can give another setback. I know we have a lot of writers that hate to hurt their characters and hate to do things to them, but this is a really good point, a great place in your book to hurt your characters, and then they have to come back from that major setback because we love a good comeback story. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my daughter put her son on the ground when he was a pre-crawler, and he started to fuss, and I was like, "Oh, poor baby." And the instinct was to go get him. And my daughter said, "Mom, tummy time is hard."
mm,
And this is what she would tell herself to like
mm,
steel herself against picking him up before he had the opportunity to try to push himself up to try to crawl.
mhm,
So it's like you're hurting your characters, but it's like without any of that, there's no room at all for growth, either of the character
exactly.
or of the story.
Exactly. That is such a great analogy.
Christy says, "Oh my goodness, I get bogged down in subplots because I feel like I have to know the backstories of each of my minor characters, and then I end up compelled to tell their stories too." Well, I recommend that you open up separate docs and do that elsewhere, and maybe do that as giveaways or newsletter content or advertising or supplemental. But that's great that you know your characters that well. They're probably very real to your reader too.
Mhm.
Um, and just that's not for this novel, right?
Right. I know not everybody will read Harry Potter, but J.K. Rowling does a really good job in this. We all know and love Dumbledore. We all know like kind of who he is just through his actions and what he does. We don't know his whole life story, though I do think she did a whole series on that too. But Snape, we get more information at the very end of the series about Professor Snape, but throughout this, we get enough little tidbits of Professor Snape that we know who he is and what he stands for and like that. So this is what your goal is to write, is we don't need their entire backstory. We just need to know enough about them for us to love them and to be cheering for them.
Okay, so we're gonna. Oh, Kathy Swanson says, "Or room to grow for the author." Yes, tummy time is hard, but it also helps the author to advance.
I could use some tummy time right now, not gonna lie.
Okay, so our final area, our final perilous place for a novel to lose its momentum is during the extended resolution.
Yes.
I think the word extended is maybe a clue.
Yes. So I struggle with this too.
All
Again, this
right.
is one area that I struggle with, and I'm gonna be completely honest. I've had people that I know that have read, like, especially my third book, and they're like, I seriously was on the edge of my seat. I thought she's not going to put them together. She is not going to put them together because I waited so long because I didn't know what to do after that. Once they're together, I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
I just want the story to end that way, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I used the time between the 75% and the end to like really just tie up loose ends of everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And then I brought them together. So you can do that, but the extended resolution is when the main conflict is over, but the story just keeps going. There's like too many wrap-up scenes afterwards. So your emotional payoff gets diluted. So you have to be careful. Like if you put too much stuff after your climax, people may not care enough. I know you think they do, and I know you do about all these like subplots, but if it's important enough to you that we know what happened to everybody, then you need to somehow put it before the final climax. And it
Yes, you
is
said that's where you do it.
That's
Yeah.
where I do it. Also, you only need to resolve the most important story threads. We don't need to know what happens to every single character. And if you get a lot of feedback from people, but what happened to Katie? Well, maybe Katie needs her own story.
Yeah.
Maybe that
There
will
you
be
go,
your
Christy.
giveaway.
Yeah.
I know, because I know that's what I keep getting from my second book is, but what happened to Katie? Well, you guys are going to find out. And I didn't even think about that. She was just one of those characters. I thought she was important, but I thought not important enough for me to do some sort of resolution with her. But apparently for the readers, they want more Katie. So that's coming.
Well, and I think this is where romance writers, I would have thought, have it easy because people want a happily ever after. I would be thinking you write a scene of domestic bliss. Like, I mean, I personally am making assumptions about a genre I know nothing about. So
Sometimes,
yeah.
I mean, my epilogue in book 2 is kind of that, but
Mm-hmm.
still left lots open because I knew I was writing more books where she would be mentioned or she would kind of show up.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, the best thing to do is to leave your readers wanting just one more chapter because a good book never ends. It continues in
Mm-hmm.
your head and you think about those characters. And again, you don't have to tell your readers everything. They're smart. Let them decide what happens to the characters later. You don't need to wrap every single thing up. So Piper says, I think I tend to wrap up the story too quickly, solve the mystery, end. LOL. I usually need to add a bit more of life after the story to make it feel less abrupt. Yep. I can see that too. I probably maybe could be accused of that sometimes too, but
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a natural inclination. You've said all there is to say, you think, really, you know?
right.
All right. So we have covered in this episode the 5 major places where every novel loses momentum. And for those of you who are published or you have a book finished and with the editor, we would like to know, where did you struggle, or where do you struggle, or where are you currently struggling? Great places to share with us could include our Facebook group, the listeners of the Christian Indie Writers Podcast. I would say that's probably our most active platform. And again, you can join our Patreon. If you donate $5 a month or more, you can meet up with us every month, and we would like to hear face to face from you about where you're having struggles and concerns and what you would like more about from us here on the podcast. Right. So I think now it is time, Jen, to turn to the feeding of the backs. And if you're new to the show, you probably don't know. Well, I don't know how you could. That what this means is we have written to a sprint prompt, the same one. And this exercise is great for so many reasons. First of all, it shows that even if 2 writers have the same idea, they're not going to produce the same work. And it used to be 4 of us, and we would get 4 completely different stories, one different perspective from each of the hosts. Now that it's 3, same deal. You'll see differences today, I am sure, between what Jen comes up with and what I come up with. And we challenge everybody to write to this prompt also. We take 15 minutes to write, and then we read them live on the air here for you guys without any editing, not touching them again after. And so we only give positive feedback for that reason, because they're raw and we're pretty vulnerable about them. So Jen, do you want to share what the prompt was and what you wrote?
Yes. So today's prompt was a sentence, and it was, he told us a very exciting adventure story. And I didn't use it at all. I came in this morning. I knew Tina wasn't going to be here. So I was like, you know what? I don't need to be down there as early. My office is in the basement. Down there as early as I just got to go right, and I show up down here and the podcast wasn't here that I had scheduled before. Like, I don't know what happened. I don't it's been a couple weeks. So that's all I know. But anywho, it looks like it got deleted somehow. So then I had to do that, and then I had to write. And as you guys can probably tell, I'm on the struggle bus today. So I don't know where this came from, but it's very short and it's just me rambling. So there you go. All right. I'm tired. No, I'm not. No, I'm more than tired. I'm just spent, completely used up. The problem is that doesn't matter to anyone else. I still have to show up for everyone who expects me to, everyone who needs me to. But how do you pour out to others from a vessel that is empty? You fill it up first. We have this hope as an anchor for the soul, firm and secure. It enters the inner sanctuary behind the curtain where our forerunner, Jesus, has entered on our behalf. Hebrews 6:19 through 20a. The storms will toss you, try to overturn you, but you will not be lost at sea. If you are anchored in Jesus, the anchor will hold. It doesn't mean that you won't still experience the storms, just that you will survive them. So I'm still exhausted, but I can make it through today. I'll face tomorrow, but for today, I have Jesus. That's it.
I'm sure that was not autobiographical in any way.
It was 100% autobiographical.
Well, I hope that you will print that out and stick it to your bathroom mirror, because what an amazing encouragement that you gave yourself. And I hope that, your next day off, which I happen to know when that is, that you will have time to refresh and recharge and refill your cup in the best way that you know. Do you know what refills your cup? That's part of the solution, right?
Well, reading his word for sure. So what happened this morning is I just started writing, and I was just like, I don't know what to write. I hated the prompt, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I had nothing. And I sat here for a few minutes. I'm like, I have nothing. And I was like, I'm tired. So I just started writing. And then how do you pour out to others from a vessel that's empty? I realized I had not spent any time with Jesus. And I was like, okay. So I stopped, and I didn't have long, because when you guys remember, I told you that I came down here and this was not ready. So then I just went to our daily bread, and that was our daily bread today, was that scripture. And so I was like, it could not have been better. The fact that was what today's scripture was, I was like, okay, Lord. So there's that. Naps are good for me. Food, I'm gonna get some good food today. I've been
eating a lot of
camp food, which their camp food is fine. Don't get me wrong. I've had way worse camp food, but the camp food is fine. But it's just I've been running. So I'm gonna get some good food today, go to the grocery store, spend time with my girls, and I'm gonna take a nap. That's
yay! A nap and a snack.
A nap and a snack, and I'll be happy. Who was that in the Bible that just needed a nap and a snack?
Ezekiel, I think, or Elijah. Is it Ezekiel? I can't remember. I think Job also got a nap and a snack when he was mad. I can't remember. We'll have to look it up. It seems like it's applicable all over the place, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for sharing that and for being vulnerable. And I hope you have my number to call me anytime that you're feeling, however, depleted. I need nothing from you. I will ask nothing of you except to show up to the podcast and set up the podcast graphics. And just kidding. Okay. So I will read my sprint. Maybe Hold on. The problem is that I'm not prepared. Let's see. First of all, wrong episode. I was going to read you a sprint that you already heard before. That would be terrible. Oh my
I thought
gosh, I
about
wrote
it.
this
I
on
was
July
like,
10th.
I so did not want to write. I thought, what if I just showed up and read one from like 2 years ago? Would anyone realize that?
We've been at this for kind of a while.
6 years ago, I pull one out. May I read it? Will anyone? I could pull one of Tina's out. Will anyone know?
Did Yep, they'll be like, "Wait, Tina wrote that."
Yeah.
Jen,
Totally different.
did we say that Christy said your sprint was quite lovely?
Oh, thanks, Christy. I appreciate that.
Aw. Okay, here we go. He told us a very exciting adventure story. When Timmy and I were small, a very old, wrinkled man came to visit my parents. I want to say he was a college professor friend, maybe someone who taught my father, but I cannot be sure. I would love to ask them now, but they're gone, so the opportunity to do so has passed. He told us a very exciting adventure story. That was all it took. From that time forward, Timmy and I were hooked. We went to children's story hour at the library and begged our parents to take us to local storytelling festivals. And on those occasions, when the teller read to us from a book, we insisted on having a copy for ourselves. At first, we would borrow from the library, but our parents learned quickly it was best to purchase one. Timmy and I would spend hours taking turns retelling the tales to one another with gestures and voices and supreme depths of emotion, all while turning the pages at random. Over and over and over, we would read the stories to one another. The wear and tear the book suffered was fantastic. We did love the books, and we were careful not to throw them or bend the spines, but we were just too young to think about sticky hands. Our books lived on a little shelf our mother had picked up off the side of the road and cleaned and painted for us. It was a cheery yellow thing with big red and blue flowers. Children's books being what they were in that day, the effect was tremendous. I often thought how lucky I was to live in my very own rainbow, and I knew exactly where its treasure lay, and I possessed that too. Finally, Timmy and I started school. On the very first day, we practiced the alphabet. Somehow, neither of us connected the big ballooning shapes or the teacher's trail of chalk on the board to the stuff of the pots stored within our own little rainbow. But when the readers came out, and when the teacher made us follow along with our finger as she overpronounced the words see, spot, and run, Timmy's eyes met mine, and we both knew we each understood that we had discovered the secret to 1,000,001 adventures.
Oh, so good, Jamie. Oh my gosh. Beginning, middle, end, like complete story. Like, I just love this so much. First of all, I imagine that they're boys, twin little boys. I don't know if well, Timmy, but I guess the author could, or the narrator could have been a girl. But I just love the way that these boys are just, they have discovered words, and then how you brought it together at the end, where they all of a sudden connect that, like, they can read, and that they have unlocked this. So good. I love it so much.
Thank you. Yes, it's like so interesting as you see your children and your grandchildren grow up, and you realize how much they have to learn to
Yeah.
just become like us old people. Like, I mean, first of all, and this is the first few months I brought up crawling, and then there's walking. And then this
Right.
moment when you learn to read. Do you happen to remember any of your life before you could read?
Yes, I do. I
Yeah.
actually remember sitting in my first grade class, because they didn't do it in kindergarten back then. In my first grade class, and there was a little girl there that could already read, and I think that I was like competitive or jealous because, well, I'm smart. Why can't I? And so, like, there were different books that she got to pick, and we had quiet time where we'd go pick books, and all these kids are picking picture books, and I picked a book off of the shelf that had lots of words, and I just sat there and with my finger and went and looked at the word. Like, I didn't know what I was reading, but like, I felt great, like looking at, like, honestly opening up the book with more words than there were, and there were some pictures, but I just felt like, wow, this is like a whole another place, is what I felt like. It's a whole new world opening up to me. So I remember that very vividly. So do you remember your life before you could read?
I have a very distinct memory of being in the back seat of my mother's car and like looking up at the hamburger bun with the words, and I knew that that said Burger King.
Yes.
How does that say Burger King? I knew that there was some kind of a like connection between those weird shapes and the words Burger King, but not being able to comprehend how that
That's
worked.
so
Then,
awesome.
you know, when I was in school and kind of like learning that, like I
Mhm.
don't know, it was very much I did not connect those moments, right? Like I didn't
Right.
like, aha, that's how it says Burger King. But anyway, I do remember that particular instant. I
I
don't know, I had to be like 3 or something, right? You had to be real tiny
Yeah.
because they started us in kindergarten, 4 and 5, right?
Yeah, I love that about your story is that you capture that aha moment where
Mm.
they realize, "Ah, this is how it's done." I love that.
It's so
Um,
crazy. I wrote this on July 10th. Like, it was, sort of a surprise to me too because I kind of forgot what I even wrote. It's fun.
um, Piper says, "Jamie, I so identify with this story, and it seems like twins." That's what I think too, yep.
Oh, that's what Jen said, yeah.
Yep. Christy says, "Oh, yeah, that's pretty amazing." And Piper also says, "My first book I ever read was a Golden Books version of Goldilocks and the 3 Bears." My grandma
Oh,
had the best books at her house. I don't think I don't remember there ever being books at my house until I was older, which is weird. I'm sure there were, but my grandma had all the golden books, and she had, like, oh, there's so many different books, and I remember them, and I read them over and over and over again. So, yeah. So it's fun.
that's precious.
Yeah.
Okay, so, we're wrapping up here, Jen. What's next for you?
A nap and good food.
That's right. We don't need
Um,
to think any farther than that, honestly.
I really hate to say that, but like writing right now is not in a couple weeks. Um, my focus is gonna be changing. But what I got going on in my life right now, like I'm on a hiatus from writing right now. So sorry. Maybe you shouldn't take any advice from me since I'm not doing what I say that you should do. But
I don't know. I mean, not doing what we say that you should do. We've never practiced what we preach really here. When we said button seats, we did have button seats.
that's true.
I mean,
That's true. And it
I
works.
am.
It really
Yeah,
does work.
it
Yeah,
does if you do it.
if you do it.
And I don't know. It's so funny. We talk about like circling the drain as a negative connotation to it, but it's funny because Teresa Thomas, who's often able to join us in the show, she talks about like I feel like I'm closer to being ready than I was before, and this is continually how I feel
Mm,
because when I am not at home, I think about well, I could go home and work on my book, and then I don't. I choose other things but I do feel like I'm getting ready to be back there. I don't know. I'm enjoying the sprints. I'm enjoying that writing process. So we'll see.
awesome.
Okay, so with that, this concludes this episode of the Christian Indie Writers Podcast. Until next time, may your pen be prolific. May your deadlines be met. And may all of our words honor Christ. Bye now.
I know.